What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of STM Live. That was a quick little preview reel from the show that we're talking about tonight, On the Trail of UFOs. And we will get there very, very shortly after a few very important announcements. We have a new episode of The Lore You Know coming for you guys on Monday. I'm not going to tell you who the guest is. That's a surprise. But if you haven't heard our most recent episode with Mr. Adam Duggan, who you might be hearing from again very shortly. I don't know. We'll see. Definitely check that out on your podcasting platform of choice. You can also listen to this show on your favorite podcasting platform. And very exciting, there is a new episode of Bigfoot Beyond the Trail from Mr. Alexander Pedikov available right now for squad members. Squad members are the term that we affectionately use to refer to our YouTube channel members. So you can check that out right now in 4K without ads, and it will be available worldwide in an ad-supported format on Sunday. And maybe that might be the only announcement going on. Oh, wait, no, it's not, because Kickstarter is happening tomorrow. We are less than 24 hours away from the launch of the 2024 Kickstarter campaign. We will be going live again, wherever you're watching this. You can come back and hang out with us again tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time. We will be doing film previews, never before seen footage from some of our upcoming films. I haven't even seen these yet. I don't even know what movies they're from. I just know that they've never been seen before. So come back and check that out. We'll be doing trivia, giving away a whole bunch of prizes, including these one-of-a-kind stainless steel tumblers from our friend Lisa Thorpe. It's going to be really difficult for me not to just talk about all the cool stuff that's coming up with the Kickstarter campaign over the next hour. So instead of doing that, even though I could, I do want to mention that be sure to check back on our social channels tomorrow for the final Kickstarter reward announcement. Not going to say anything else because I might give something away and then I'll get in trouble, and my boss is here tonight. So without further ado, I would like to welcome back to STM Live, Small Town Monsters COO, Adam Duggan. Hey, buddy.
What's up, buddy? How are you?
Good. I'm fantastic. And
ready
also,
for tomorrow?
Yeah. Oh, dude, I'm so ready. Like I said, I'm going to have to stop myself from just talking about tomorrow all night.
I know. Yeah. I'm having dreams/nightmares about it. I'm not sure which one they are. I'm going to say dreams because that's better. Feels better.
Yeah. I had a dream that I'll wait until our second guest is up here, but also Mr. Seth Breedlove, of course.
No.
Sorry. I got him.
Hey. Hi, how are you?
I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at what you were doing.
No, it's okay.
No, I had a dream last night that the Kickstarter happened, like it launched and everyone showed up, like, everybody, but it was an in-person event, not a virtual one.
That's a nightmare.
Sounds expensive.
We have had, since the beginning, we get frequent questions and comments with people wanting to know like where the event is located, and they'll give me the address for where the Kickstarter is located. So that's been a frequent misconception going back to 2014, 2015.
Okay. So we should probably clarify that the Kickstarter is not a physical in-person event, but it is something that is on the internet.
Yeah. And if people don't know what a Kickstarter is, which is also common, the Kickstarter is a crowdfunding event, which is found at smalltownmonsters.com Kickstarter.com, and then you search for Small Town Monsters. Crowdfunding is basically you put money into what we are going to create throughout the year, and you get a bunch of really cool rewards in exchange for that.
Bunch of cool stuff.
Someone remind me to talk about Brandon's injured back during the making of On the Trail of UFOs, because I saw a clip in the intro and it reminded me of some stories I have.
Well, why don't we get right into that? Because we've been talking Bigfoot on this show for several weeks, and that's great. I loves me some Bigfoot, but I really, really like UFOs. So let's get right into it. I'm really excited about this. As always, everybody, please drop your questions and comments in the chat. We're talking On the Trail of UFOs. It's going to be super fantastic. Grant does have a comment regarding tomorrow night that I want to make sure we address before I forget. I have the Academy tomorrow night. That's a bummer, Grant. We will miss you, but you can still sign up for the Kickstarter anytime during the month of February, even if you are busy tomorrow night.
And the live stream we just leave up. Typically, the actual live stream we leave up as a viewable video for the duration, so you'll be able to, I guess, watch that. I was going to say posthumously, but that's not right. But you'll be able to watch it after we're done recording. Hopefully, we're still alive.
Retroactively? Is that
yes, retroactively.
Retroactively. Yeah. Important thing of note, and we'll reiterate this as it comes up, but you can join the campaign anytime during the month of February. So here's a question I have for you guys that I'm really excited to get out there before the audience asks better questions than me. There's a lot. Oh yeah, totally. I'm looking at the comments right now. There's a lot going on in the UFO world right now. So I'm glad that this film is available on YouTube at the time that it is. Knowing what you may or may not know now about the state of UFOs and UAPs, how would you approach On the Trail of UFOs differently? And that's a question for both of you.
Yeah, I have thoughts on that. The number one thing, well, thankfully I'm going to get to tackle this stuff again this year in the present, sort of climate that surrounds the UFO subject. But the biggest thing I think I wish I had done a little bit more, because I think it's very present in my mind now, is really pushed a little bit heavier the sort of general gist of the show, which is that it's said time and time again kind of throughout the show that there is much more of a focus on the politicized side of the UFO phenomenon now, and less of a focus on just witnesses, people who have experienced things, the general public, that the quote unquote nobodies out there that see UFOs have sort of been replaced by Air Force pilots and government officials. And it's amazing that we have those people coming forward to talk about the subject, for sure. And I'm not downplaying military members talking about encounters or anything like that, but there has become this sort of, there's a very big focus on that right now, especially in the mainstream. Whereas I still feel like when you hear just a general sort of man on the street talk about a UFO encounter, it's still sort of played off for laughs a lot of the time in the mainstream. So the whole focus of the show, the whole message of the show, if there was one, was sort of that, we can't throw out the baby with the bathwater, or
Anyway,
we can't throw out we can't throw out the just your average sighting reports just because they don't contain the military element. We very specifically opened the very first episode with an account that had happened like 30 years prior to when we filmed this. That was just a kid who had seen a UFO. And you see much less of a focus on that today, and much more of a focus on these military encounters, or whatever's going on in Congress, or whatever halls of the Pentagon that have captured people's imagination. And I don't know. I get it. I get why that stuff's important, but it's also not the stuff that drew me to the topic in the first place. I'm not super interested in panel hearings and that kind of thing. I get why it's important, but it's not, we can't ignore the just the general reports in favor of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, because that's where this originates. Before congressional hearings, before headlines, people were sharing these stories with one another and growing up hearing about them. So that's always been one of my favorite things about this series. But
yeah. Well, if I had realized, especially today, like UFO Twitter is, well, first of all, it's a dumpster fire, but second of all, it's like almost entirely people arguing over Senate hearings and all this kind of stuff regarding UFOs. and there's very little focus on actual UFOs or analyzing UFOs or that kind of thing. It's more people arguing over different politicians' roles in the phenomenon and whether they're doing enough or whether they're a government shill or it's also been dominated. The topic's also been dominated by conspiracy theory, which I don't. It's a slippery slope once you go down it.
Yeah, there's a fine line between conspiracy theory and many other things, but that's a topic for another day, perhaps. Adam, you were on this shoot. What do you think?
Yeah, it's weird because I was hearing Seth say that, and I agree with all of that. But then my interest has been piqued as of late. I feel like I always have a way to bring this up, but it's just how my brain works. Is that I love airplanes. I love like that kind of stuff. And with David Fravor's encounter, whatever you want to make of that, or whatever, off the West Coast on the Nimitz, and then there was another gentleman who had an encounter off the East Coast with some sort of something in the water or coming out of the water or whatever. Me just being interested in that subject of like military aviation, and then hearing these guys talk about it, I've always really enjoyed the idea of UAPs or UFOs or whatever, but it's actually been piqued for me more, not the Senate hearings and whatever. I'm 100% on board. Like I don't care who argues what and who stands on this side of the aisle versus this side of the aisle. So that piece for sure. And then I guess maybe it's come to light as of late. I'm sure it's been something for a long time, but the idea of not them not coming from up there, but coming from down there, or something like that. And the idea of kind of the more terrestrial base of UFO encounters and what are other options out there. Obviously, like your mind goes to space and goes to whatever's up there. But I think that there's some stuff to be explored down there too. But Seth is my boss, so I agree with everything that you just said, 100%. And yeah, 100%. I'm on board.
Well, that's a fun line of speculation too, but it's also, what is a more frightening prospect, that they're coming from up there or that they're already here, possibly underneath?
Yeah, and maybe they started there and ended and stopped here and are going to head back up at some point. I don't know. I don't know what their Google Maps. I don't know what they've got sketched out. But I almost said MapQuest, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely from the 80s for sure, because I just almost said MapQuest.
I remember MapQuest. Yeah, okay. I'm sure a couple of people watching remember MapQuest.
Better.
Shout out in the chat if you remember MapQuest. And very important, shout out to our new squad members, Liz Haight and Fireman John. Thank you for joining the squad. We appreciate you guys. You make what we do possible. We do have a couple questions from the audience, so we will do those. Our friend BH asks, Aaron, how do I contact you without social media? BH, you can send an email to contact us at smalltownmonsters.com, and it will be sent to me. So
I've got his phone number. Do you want to? I can put it in the chat.
I can give you guys his personal home address if you want.
Yeah, his address too.
They do have those things. But yes, if any questions, comments you guys have, or individual person you're interested in reaching out to, contact us at smalltownmonsters.com. We can figure that out for you. So BH does have a question for us. So first question from me: do you think UFOs will help other areas of the unexplained get more attention and serious scrutiny?
It is. It depends on what we're talking about. With like get more attention, sure. If we can like definitively prove that UFOs are real or not. I mean, we know UFOs are real. Like we know there's things in the air that we haven't been able to identify. So they're real. What they are, where they're from, that's what we don't know. If one of those things is able to be sort of identified, I do think people might take other topics more seriously. or maybe not take them more seriously, but cast a larger spotlight on them. What I would say will happen is it will be much more in the vein of entertainment than serious governmental hearings and things like that regarding those subjects. There's no reality that I can picture where we're having like congressional hearings about ghosts. But for sure I could definitely see, the History Channel or whatever pumping out an additional 20 shows about this stuff each year. And I say that as someone who traffics in these topics, myself. So we make our own stuff about UFOs and Bigfoot and hauntings and all that kind of stuff. But I think we do it from a much more grounded place than network television.
I think it'd be commercialized like everything else. Like I think it would be more that avenue. We'd see more inquiry, and only in as much as it could make financial sense for, whatever entity, like I can just imagine like actually having, I don't know if it would be like a little green man, but whatever, a reality show, like he's getting used to living on Earth, or what I mean? Like, I know that sounds crazy, but I feel like that would be like the thing. Like, it's not that
he's getting used to living on Earth,
but he's about to find out that being human isn't so
McDonald's
easy.
is not really meat.
No, I was gonna say I could envision a future, probably not that far off, where we're seeing more reality shows focusing on eyewitness testimony or investigating reports, but maybe they're running on networks that didn't previously run this kind of stuff. Like instead of just History Channel and Discovery, maybe they're showing up on Bravo or I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
I mean, we're already seeing that with like 60 Minutes and TMZ and stuff covering UFOs. Who would have pictured that 10 years ago?
Fox News put out a cattle mutilation documentary very, very shortly after the release of Night Visitors. I've never forgotten that. I never will. But
yeah. So I think for sure we'll see more entertainment focused on this stuff. I don't know if we'll see scientific studies taking it very seriously. Bigfoot is always going to ebb and flow. There's always going to be some guy at a university doing something relating to Bigfoot, and the bulk of the scientific community will scoff at it and not take it seriously, and that's just the future for Bigfoot until it's definitively proven to exist.
But I think we've definitively proven, like you said, Seth, that there's something in the sky that we don't know what it is, and it's that. I mean, I think that's like without a shadow of a doubt, it's there, and the kind of the, I don't know, it's like it's already. I think it's already been proven that it's there. Yeah. So I think you're seeing now the TMZ pick it up and those kinds of things. Like that's what happens when something is essentially definitively proven. It's just going to be taken and ran with it as far as it can go until, those worms from Tremors are discovered. And then it's going to be the Tremors get used to living above ground.
Because we basically got everything at this point other than, the president getting behind a microphone and going, the aliens are real. I've seen them myself. They go by Bill. And I don't know why the president is Nixon now. But
I don't know.
It's a whole, like, we've got just about everything other than that.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah.
Well, speaking of Bigfoot, going back to Bigfoot for a moment, our friend Metallica 4567 asks, Seth, what do you think about the UFO Bigfoot connection?
Well, I don't think there is a UFO Bigfoot connection. So that's like, I feel like we talk about this every time I do a show, but
we do.
The number of actual reports, and I'm not talking about like just anonymous people posting online, but reports that come to investigators that tie UFOs to Bigfoot, whether it's a sighting of a Bigfoot walking out of a UFO or a Bigfoot in proximity to a UFO, the actual number of those reports that come to investigators are almost non-existent. Now, you have investigators who, for some reason, they do get a larger number of those reports. I don't know if it's that people just see them as a safe place to kind of, come to with their outlandish story. And when I say outlandish, I don't mean that they made it up. I'm saying that they see their own encounter as being pretty out there, and they think, I have to find someone to tell this to, but this flesh and blood kind of guy isn't going to believe it, so I'm going to talk to Stan Gordon, for instance. I don't know what accounts for that. I personally don't think there is a connection between UFOs and Bigfoots, just because of the fact that there's also the fact that I've been doing this for 10 years. I've probably conducted 200 plus interviews, 300 interviews, something like that. I've never spoken to a witness who claimed to have encountered a Bigfoot in proximity with a UFO, exiting a UFO. That doesn't mean I haven't told stories about those things or, relayed encounters from people like Stan Gordon that did. But me personally, I've never interviewed a witness. Maybe if I do that, it will change my mind a little bit. But I don't buy a direct connection between UFOs and Bigfoot. I just don't. And by the way, this is always a hot button topic for some reason, and people get really in their feelings over the fact that they aren't, that I say these things. You don't, whatever your opinion is totally fine, but that's mine.
I think that's fair. You got anything on this one, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think that I don't think that there's a connection. I think sometimes like correlation is misinterpreted as causation a bit, and if you look at maybe some of the areas that there is reported Bigfoot activity tend to be fairly remote, tend to be on the outskirts or whatever. It makes sense to me that there are not a lot of lights in the sky in those really remote areas. Things are going to be easier to see and whatever. I mean, that's probably a hard line to draw there, but I'm just saying, I think that there are sometimes those situations appear to be connected, are not as often connected as it might seem, because obviously you're going to hear the off one here and there, or it's going to be reported, like Seth said, to somebody like Stan Gordon or someone who seems like, well, they're going to at least listen to my story, so I'm going to bring it here, and then he's going to talk about it, and he's obviously very well known for his work in the world of Bigfoot as well. So I think I'm not doubting that, just numbers say that every now and then two weird things will happen at the same time. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're connected in any way. There's probably a lot of other circumstantial things that are happening that are causing that potentially, I would think.
Well, it's also the fact that even in the case of like Stan Gordon and the Chestnut Ridge stuff, and again, I want to reiterate, I'm not saying these things don't happen or people don't have odd encounters, because I've interviewed Stan, who has interviewed people who've claimed these things have happened. So I'm not saying they don't happen. I'm saying I haven't spoken directly to a witness about them enough to make a judgment call, a final, like a definitive judgment call. But now I lost my train of thought. Something about Stan. Oh, the reports that Stan took, particularly in the 70s, which is sort of the flap that everyone associates. The reason people ask this question, at least partially, whether they realize it or not, goes back to Stan Gordon's investigative work on the Chestnut Ridge, Dr. Paul Johnson, like the work he did on the Chestnut Ridge. A lot of it goes back to the Chestnut Ridge stuff. The creatures that people were seeing were not your traditional Bigfoot creature. They had abnormally long arms and were extremely slender, glowing, red-eyed, hairy things. So we say that's a Bigfoot. But the creatures that were seen in conjunction with a UFO were not your traditional UFO, Bigfoot type creature. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, seeing something weird, I mean, you're going to associate it with something. And so it's a general humanoid shape, and it's tall, and it's in an area that you're not familiar with. Seems as Bobo would say, it seems pretty squatchy, you know. And you see this thing, you're like, that's I saw a Bigfoot. But a lot of times I don't think maybe you know what you saw, and you're reporting a Bigfoot, and you're seeing a tall green man or whatever color. I don't know.
Yeah, he's just getting used to life here on Earth.
Just listen, he's got a TLC camera right behind him, just following him, watching him touch grass for the first time. Earth grass.
But he's about to find out that earth grass is different from Spiebergen grass. No, I think that's a great question. And I always like to I like to have our guests answer that question on this show because it's a fun line of speculation. So yeah. Thank you, Metallica. Appreciate that. Michael Tovar, our friend Michael, asks, Seth, enjoyed the recent UFO show. I cannot remember who said it, but there was a comment during the show about how the UFO sightings over the decades, the aircraft descriptions change. Thoughts?
Yeah, that's, I think, episode 2, The Changing Face, was entirely about descriptions and how over the course of like 150 years, we can kind of, well, I guess even further back than that, we can kind of track the descriptions of these things changing from, you know, the airships of the late 1800s into the early 1900s, where they're almost Zeppelin-like, or, you know, some sort of hovering blimp, to the flying saucers that we associate with the Cold War era. And then, you know, you get into the black triangles of the late 2000s, or the late 90s, early 2000s. And then we're at present day, which is sort of like Tic Tacs and jellyfish. There is a progression. And what's odd is it does kind of track with the technology of the time. And so you got these airships, which sort of recall like H.G. Wells in a time, you know, before we have airplanes and things like that. And then you get airplanes, and all of a sudden it's this round floating disc that seems futuristic in the 40s and 50s. Today it seems, you know, it's awesome. It's the vision of a UFO that we all hold, but it's not necessarily the dominant thing that is seen today. What that accounts for, I don't know. That's kind of the point of that episode is, you know, is it that the phenomenon is intelligent and it's just sort of manifesting something in the air that is what we want to see, you know, that people at that time might understand? Or is it, are the others evolving their technology over time? You know, I mean, there's any line of speculation you can go down. I don't have a particular theory about it, but I think it's very interesting that, you know, especially, you know, that I guess the late 80s, even into the early 2000s, and I guess up to present day, sort of the dominant craft that people talk about are the giant triangles, you know. And so I don't know what that accounts for. I don't know. I don't have a theory one way or the other, but you can't take an honest look at the subject and not notice that somehow these craft seem to be sort of changing with the times.
I enjoy the idea that we're looking at multiple factions or races or, you know, types of visitors, and they're coming from different places. maybe Earth is a weird tourist stop for aliens on their way to God knows where, but
Spaboodle.
Yeah.
Spaboodle. The grass on Spaboodle is always greener. That's what my grandma told me.
But they're about to find out that the grass
Yeah, it to that point. I put it in a chat, and so you might want to preview the link first or whatever. But if you've never looked at it's a new stealth bomber that the U.S. has called a B-21 Raider. The first thing I thought of when I looked at it, if you look at the front profile, it looks like a saucer UFO. It's flat. The canopy goes up like this. Its profile is super thin. It looks like every description of a saucer UFO with a little bubble on top that we've all seen and grown up with. And I think that that's interesting, and that gets into the whole subject of Area 51 and all of that kind of stuff. Like, then the question is, where does that technology coming from? Like, why do we know to make designs that look like this? How do we know that these are faster, more fuel efficient, harder to pick up on traditional military radar, surface to air radar, things like that? Like, where do we get that from? I think that's an interesting question, because you can go, oh, it's just it's a classified aircraft. It's like, but we had to learn that stuff from somewhere. And if you look at the advancement in our aviation technology over the last 100 years, it is wild how fast we've gone from, hey, we're not flapping our wings and we're flying, to we're, twice the speed of sound, going continents away. That's me talking like everyone I hear outside here in Tennessee. And that's how we talk. Like I am.
Yeah.
But
That's the Wright brothers.
Well, we're in an era now where any potential UFO evidence, okay, it could be a drone, it could be experimental military technology, it could be an AI generated deep fake. Like, it's difficult now, I think, more than it probably ever has been, to assess evidence as being legitimate or not legitimate. And that's somehow connected back to the question. I just don't remember how.
We're all distrusting as a society now. There's so much out there that A, we feel like we've not been told, and B, that we just don't know about, because technology is advancing so quickly. Mm-hmm. It's so easy. I think probably when we all saw like Jurassic Park for the first time, we were like, I'm pretty sure those are real dinosaurs. I don't know how they got them. Maybe I was just a really dumb kid, but I was like, I did not.
No, I'm right there with you. I mean,
you didn't know, but now you almost get tired of seeing this CGI, like dinosaurs and monsters and whatever, and you kind of want the more tangible, tactile, like old school Universal monsters costumes, because you could tell they were there in the physical space. But the line is so blurry now, and it's gone so far that I think, like, just general distrust anyway. Back to the point earlier, like, what if we did have an alien sitting in front of us being like, hey, I am an alien from Shaboodle and I'm here, and we're like, no, it's a deep fake. It's not
Don't
real.
buy it.
I know what Shaboodle Ians are like, and that's not one of them.
That's not one of them. They have rainbow eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it on YouTube. That's
right. Yeah.
Great question, Michael. Thank you. That was a fun one. Here's a very important one from our friend Mr. Dollar Store Gloves. Are you afraid that the U.S. government will name other UFO videos they release after candy, like Google does with Android? I couldn't even get through that.
We got the Tic Tac video, the Take 5 videos next. The Big Cup is coming.
Go Fast is an energy drink.
Is it? Okay.
I don't think it is. I think it could be.
Yeah, it's terrifying. Anything that involves the U.S. government, government talking about. Here's the problem I have with it is when the government gets involved with UFOs, do you become more accepting of UFOs being real or less accepting? And I think it's going to be an interesting thing to watch our country divide politically over UFOs, because this is going to happen too, like we have over everything else, because it's an inevitability that will be coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
Well, you've already seen, even just back in June when those congressional hearings happened, or the most recent ones happened, you were seeing within the paranormal niche, just on Instagram, for instance, people who talked a lot about the UFO topic, all of a sudden being a little more critical of it than they might have been, because it was government people coming forward. So it's been interesting to watch, even just in the short term.
Yeah.
I'll also I don't know if this is necessarily related, but I grew up in Hurricane Alley in Central Florida, and it always bothered me the way hurricanes were given very nice, friendly names, like Francis and Guinevere and Abby. And these are giant, horrible storms that destroy entire towns and, flood things. And I was like, why are we not naming these after like Greek gods or something? I'm a lot more likely to get out of the way if I'm running from, Hurricane Zeus. So I don't know. I don't know if that has something to do, if there's a connection there. I don't know.
Yeah.
The Junior Mint UFO video is really good.
That's my favorite.
It's so fast.
It's delicious.
I couldn't think of a good way to describe it.
Great question, Mr. Dollar Store Gloves.
Great name. Great
I
name.
love it. That cracks me up.
The whole thing across the board was great.
Everything was good about that. Yes. Please come back every time. Our friend Tyler Hall asks, how come all of the STM bros are 10 out of 10 studs?
Oh.
Beats me.
I'm just a middle-aged dad at this point. I'm not included in this.
I was going to say it just has something to do with Seth's hiring policies.
Hiring good-looking man.
Hire me several beautiful men. No. If you guys would like to learn more about Tyler Hall, maybe come hang out at our live stream tomorrow. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Just a thought. Question from Grant Rasha again. Will Lyle Blackburn bring his monster sauce to MonsterFest 2024 on June 28th and 29th in Canton, Ohio?
Is this Courtney under a pseudonym?
I don't think
that was
so.
The first thing I thought was.
I don't think so. Grant is here pretty much every week. Grant asks a lot of good questions.
Where's Courtney when this show's live?
If so, Courtney's been running a psyop on me for the last 7 months. So
Lyle always brings his hot sauce whenever.
To text Courtney right now, are you running a psyop in the YouTube chat?
That's not a euphemism either. He always brings his hot sauce.
Yeah, so most likely, yes, Grant. The hot sauce will be present, unless it's all stolen or something.
Yeah.
Just trying to think of a reason why it wouldn't be. Mr. Dollar Store Gloves back with another good question. What is your most compelling UFO sighting made by non-military people?
I love the Cash Landrum encounter. I've always wanted to make a movie out of that. Actually, that's probably one of my top cases I'd like to make a movie out of. Cash Landrum, and then Dan Weiss's sighting that opens on the Trail of UFOs is one of my favorites because I know Dan. He's a buddy of mine, and he didn't tell that story like he didn't consider telling that story lightly. It took some convincing to do. And so that's one that really stands out. Any sighting stories, any UFO sighting stories by people I know always are going to take the top of the pile for me because, I have direct contact with people who've had sightings. I have a really good friend that was a kid at a church teen camp, who was in his tent one night, got a really weird feeling, went outside, and this giant craft came over the lake where they were camping. And he had a friend who was also with him who can vouch for the story. So that's one that stands out. I mean, anything by like a personal friend, but the Cash Landrum story is one of my favorite. The Portage County UFO chase is like also a dream UFO project of mine, and a really believable sighting story. Although it's police, so I guess non-military. By the way, I don't want to. I'm not down. In no way am I downplaying military encounters. I just want to make that very clear. Like, my dad's a veteran. I support our armed services, and I come from a family of military people. So I take that stuff very seriously. I just wanted to point that out again.
Yeah, with you there. Yeah. How about you, Adam?
Yeah, I'm like Seth. Personal encounter stories are big. I feel like I always talk about my dad, but he's still here. I just said he's not gone, but he had a very what's the word? He remembers it vividly. right here where I'm at now. We live next to some big nuclear power plants. When he was growing up, seeing a fireball in the sky move over the top of the power plant, and then a lot of these smaller things coming out of the bottom while it hovered over the plant and buzzed around the whatever this thing was, and then go back up into it, and then it took off. As that encounter, and then there was an encounter. I think it was in South Africa, maybe. A bunch of school children on a playground all saw this thing at the same time. The teachers didn't see it, but then they later brought in, and someone's going to immediately know what I'm talking about and run. I can't remember the exact name. I'm sure it has like a case name, but brought in, I believe, a child psychiatrist afterwards to interview the kids individually, and each kid described the same thing, the same mannerisms of whatever it was that came out of this creature that came out of the craft and walked around. It gave them all the same message. I guess.
I want to point out that there's a case out of, everyone talks about that Africa case because of South Africa, because it's in one of James Fox's movies.
Oh.
I think it is, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken.
That makes sense.
But the one that always stands, there's an almost identical case out of Point Pleasant, West Virginia during '67, during the Mothman flap. That's almost identical. Whole school full of kids, teachers see this thing, over a school in Point Pleasant. That isn't unheard of.
I think it's super interesting, the connection between schools.
There's a Withville UFO sighting, similar, where one of these things came over a football game, a high school football game, and the entire stadium saw it. So
my dad's friends in school on a school bus, they all remember it. He's talked to each of the kids that he still has contact with on a school bus, looked out the window and saw this thing, this sphere, silver thing flying next to the school bus, and it followed them. And he's talked to those kids that were on that bus now as adults, and they all corroborate the story. It's the same story. They all remember it. They said it impacted them as a child. So the idea of, schools and like the next generation of, I almost said earthlings, the next generation
Not wrong.
on our planet, like
Shaboodlins.
The Shaboodlin. What was it? I don't remember. But anyway, I'm trying to tell a serious story.
I'm sorry.
Aliens, and then here we go. But no, like I think that stuff's really that's super interesting. I think Grant is 1994, 60 children at Ariel School in Rua, Zimbabwe. Yeah, that's the one that I think that's the one that I'm thinking. It was super interesting.
Yeah. And apparently Grant is not Courtney, because Courtney is also here with us tonight. And she says, I am not spamming the chat this time, Aaron. But yes, Monster Fest is awesome. You can bundle tickets with the Kickstarter this year. You can do that.
You gone done and did it. You opened up an avenue, and here.
So Uganda done and did it.
You gotta Uganda do it.
I don't know. Could still be Courtney. No, just kidding. But.
Yeah.
Speaking of Grant, not Courtney, I've actually been waiting to just get this comment on screen. I'm just praying that they don't look like the aliens in Mac and Me. So,
that thing is terrifying.
Yeah, shout it out in the chat if you remember Mac and Me. I certainly do. I hope everyone does.
Seth, you know that movie, right?
Oh yeah, mostly because of Paul Rudd playing it on Conan every time he went on.
Oh yeah, I have vivid memories of sitting in front of the TV as a chubby little kid eating ice cream drumstick sundae cones and watching it over and over again, and it had some sort of weird hypnotic effect on me, and I would just eat ice cream and watch it over and over. I still remember that whistle.
I did the same thing, but I was eating pizza flavored combos. Those pretzel cylinders with the goo in them.
It's probably like Kellogg's or something put that movie out, and there was some sort of weird subliminal message in the background.
Something's going on there. Investigate Mac and Me. Ooh. And Sean Forker says, a Real Housewives of Roswell. That came in earlier while we were talking about reality shows and the upcoming wave of inevitable paranormal entertainment. So that might be something. I've been to Roswell. I don't know if any of the housewives there would be interested, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
How much money do the aliens have?
That's a very good question. And does it
How
translate?
much Google money do they have?
Shabooting.
What's the conversion?
Yeah.
I'm a space millionaire, but on Earth, I'm poor. A new show from the Fox Network. Michael Tovar asks, Seth, have you interviewed Travis Walton about his abduction, or will you?
I've been around Mr. Walton twice. The first time I actually got a chance to spend some time talking to him. I have not interviewed him. I would absolutely love to. We tried to set one up when we were doing On the Trail of UFOs out in Arizona, because we weren't that far from where he lived. And it briefly looked like we might be able to squeeze him into the shooting schedule. I believe he's up in like is it Snowshoe or snow?
I think it is. I think it is Snowshoe. I think
it's something like that. Arizona. We were in Phoenix, and we were going to swing up that way or down that way, whatever it is, to interview him. It didn't transpire. I would love to interview him about it. I don't know if I'll get the opportunity, but absolutely, I'd love to.
So hopefully, maybe Grant Rasha is actually Travis Walton. So who knows? Who knows? Just kidding. But so hopefully, this is more of a comment that I really love. Less than it is a question, but Marcus Aurelius says it's absurd to think that no other life forms don't exist in just our own galaxy. If another advanced civilization started just 1% sooner than ours, it would make them 450,000 years ahead of us. Ooh, that's an interesting thought.
Yeah, I mean
I'm not going to do it.
The speculative side of this particular subject is what's so fun. I was on Jim Harold's show today, and we spent a good 15 minutes talking about USOs and undiscovered civilizations under the ocean and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that was the stuff that drew me to these topics when I was a kid, and finding books at my grandma's house about the paranormal and watching unsolved mysteries on TV. That side of all of this is what is so fascinating to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the speculative aspect is my favorite part, because I grew up on science fiction, and so then when you look through the lens of Star Trek, for example, at what might be going on in the real world, I get super excited about it. But speaking of USOs, BH asks, Seth, are you looking into possibly doing a documentary on USOs, unidentified swimming objects, or the Bermuda Triangle in the future?
We interviewed people during On the Trail of UFOs about USOs. There was supposed to be an entire episode devoted to USOs. We just didn't get to it. So the fact that we didn't get to it in season 1 means it's probably a safe bet it will show up in season 2 coming later this year. We haven't said that officially, have we? Okay.
No.
It's all right.
We have now.
Yeah. Sorry.
Hang on, I've got a title card in here.
No, stretch reward for tomorrow if you want to go ahead and pitch that one out there.
Yeah, I got a whole bunch of. I actually grouped the announcements for tonight in a separate part of StreamYard because I was so afraid of accidentally clicking on the wrong one.
I don't need to be afraid. Seth will do it for you.
Tune into tomorrow's live stream, folks, for more information about what Seth just said. Tyler Hall is eating Lyle's hot sauce with macaroni right now. Picked it up at the Mythical Pizza Shop in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. So that is where you can get your sauce if Lyle does not have enough for Monster Fest. Yes. Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, and Monster Fest. Nowhere else. That joke fell flat. Glenn Espel asks, any thoughts on what they're calling the Squid UFO recently revealed? This came up a little while ago.
I mean, I saw a very convincing breakdown of this that put me in the mindset that it was balloons. I forget the guy's name that did the analysis of it, but it was exceptionally believable. I mean, he had a photo of the balloon cluster and everything down to the little thumbnail moon shape aligned with the object, the Squid UFO. So it's either that or it's the the droid from Star Wars.
Oh, the Imperial probe droid.
Yeah. That's great.
The next 10 minutes are just going to be this.
let's just make probe droid noises.
Awesome.
They're on a rebel moon.
It's funny that we've gone full circle and now we're right back to, because it was weather balloons for the longest time, and I don't think any of us buy the weather balloon thing most of the time, but maybe the new ones are balloon. I don't know. David Otto, squad member, shout out to David, asks, you've covered many abduction stories in the UFO documentaries. Have you found more reports on generations of family getting abducted or more just a single person it happens to?
I mean, I've only interviewed a couple abduction witnesses, but I did interview a witness, and he's in Invasion on Chestnut Ridge, who experienced abduction-like phenomena, it seemed to also travel down to his grandson, who he was raising. And so I do know that is a thing during the making of On the Trail of UFOs that was frequently brought up, the fact that abduction phenomena seems to be generational. But I personally have I think he might be the only. There's definitely one in On the Trail of UFOs. So there's at least two witnesses I've interviewed who've claimed to be abducted, who also said that it happened to their children or grandchildren. And then there's also, I mean, honestly, I've only done like 3 or 4 interviews about abductions, and half of them involve that generational aspect. So I can't speak from a ton of experience just because I don't think I've spoken to enough abduction witnesses or experiencers, but that generational thing is definitely an aspect to it.
As a dad, that makes it more disturbing too, at least for me, like the idea that it's not enough that it's, whatever's happening is happening to parents, but then the kids are innocent bystanders and all that, regardless of what interaction the parent did or did not have with whatever it was. It's just kind of like being part of a long-term study.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't sound like something that I would want to involuntarily allow my kid to be a part of. I don't know. It's weird in its own way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Abduction phenomena is, I think most people would agree, probably the most frightening aspect when you get into talking about alien encounters and potential run-ins with extraterrestrials.
Yeah.
I don't think that prospect appeals to any of us. But great question, David. Thank you, and thank you for being a part of the squad. That was not meant to sound so sarcastic. We really appreciate you. Kim Jekyll asks, any thoughts, comments, concerns on the aliens that supposedly entered the mall in Miami? This is a fun one.
I saw the photos online and might have read some back and forth on Twitter, but I have no opinion.
Was this the 3 guys that looked like they were walking through the door and had, that was interesting looking. I didn't read into it. I didn't read much about it, but I did. It goes back to our point. It's being covered, which is, with that, would even this image get any play, before it became like trendy to do that or to talk about it? Not saying that it's not something weird, because it definitely is weird, but I don't know.
I've read a little bit on this one, and I've watched some of the clips, and I think it's just some people. I do think there's room for some speculation. Well, why were there so many police? At the same time, I mentioned this earlier. I'm from Central Florida. If you've ever been to Miami, that's why there were so many police. It was Miami. So and just Florida in general. But yeah,
The Florida Man meme exists for a reason. Like there's just weird stuff in Florida.
Yes, I've met Florida Man. I've been him. All of that.
I've been Florida Man. You don't want to know him well.
You don't. No. Stay away from him, us. But no, that's a great question, Kim. Thanks for bringing that up. Very much on topic. Very much. We do have a fun comment from our squad member, J.E. Roberts. All three of you are interesting to listen to with your serious answers, thoughts, and comments. You're also cracking me up at times. Ain't nothing wrong with that. So thank you. Thank you, J.E. Roberts. We try to have fun here when we can. I had a question for you that I was going to wrap out the show with. But can we expect more UFOs from Small Town Monsters in the future?
Yeah,
I know. Seth told me.
For sure. Yeah. Tomorrow night we'll announce at least a couple new things coming out that involve aerial phenomena.
Yeah.
Phenomena.
Yeah. It's gonna be a real great time.
Mm-hmm.
Did anyone name that plane that was in that? I know.
E-51 Mustang.
You did it. You also made the movie, dang it.
No, yes, definitely. Please join us tomorrow for the 2024 Kickstarter live launch stream. We will be talking about a whole bunch of the upcoming projects that we have in the works for you guys, including Lost Contact, the story of the Thomas Mantell incident, possibly the only fatality involving a UFO in U.S. history, as far as we know, as well as a bunch of other stuff. We're going to be on for a couple of hours, at least, hanging out with you guys. We've got a lot of fun things to talk about. And once again, I'm going to shut up before I ruin anything. So that brings us to the top of the hour, guys. Adam, Seth, thank you so much for coming back. Great to have you on again.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Of course. My boss told me I had to. No, just kidding. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. If we missed your question, if we missed a comment, I do apologize. You can catch this show, if you are a squad member, anytime on YouTube, and you can listen to it on your podcasting platform of choice. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow.